So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Robert Madelin, and I have the privilege, I always think, of being the Director General for Information and Society and Media here in Brussels at the European Commission. I always aspire to start the meeting on time, but you'll also be glad to know to finish it on time, because this being Friday at 4 o'clock, we will finish. And that will mean that the people who are outside at any given moment will miss stuff. Those of you at the back, feel free to come closer, because it might fill up, it probably should, that's what my friends say, but you will be part then of the conversation. My purpose as the chair, both in the opening session and in this afternoon's session, is to get your input as well as those of the speakers, and we have a fairly stellar list for all three sessions, in order to help the European Commission to work out what we can do to further boost one of the society-changing phenomena around ICT innovation. And I wanted to just lay out a few thoughts on a few slides before going into the program. So what we want is to understand whether the emerging technologies can make society a better place for people to be better. It's a very people-centered thing. If we are aware collectively of what's going on, what my choices mean, what my peers and mates and colleagues are doing, will that lead collectively, what my choices mean, what my peers and mates and colleagues are doing, will that lead collectively to greater movement, faster movement in the right direction? And we want to build on what we know, the Internet of Things, the social media, and what is our approach? It's to look at the key goals which are already out there as part of, I think, European values, certainly the Barroso II Commission goals, to build sustainability alongside jobs and growth and recovery, to use self-regulation to the maximum degree it is trustable and delivers, to be bottom-up and dispersed and only lightly coordinated, and to give power not just to the for-profit but to the non-commercial platforms. We want to find applications, as I said, that will inform our lives as consumers, that will prompt us to look again at our choices, that will set up new communities, and that will give us more access to data, including big data sources, including public service information. The key, I think, and it's a theme you see in many policy areas, is making the right choices, the easier choices for individuals in our societies. That means not just anticipating the changes we have to make, but driving them. So these are some examples which those of you who are in the projects will be aware of. I do not intend to go into them, but you'll get the slides up on our site after today. Feel free to wander around those sites, because some of the work being done under some of the existing projects contains food for thought that's relevant to all and free for use, because as taxpayers you're paying for it. So what sort of framework should we deliver in order to develop this idea of collective awareness problems further? We want to pilot more platforms for that sort of awareness. We want to look at how such platforms can carry not just static data, but simulations, games, what does it mean for me, tools. We want to ensure that while being open and dispersed, such platforms have credible trust parameters, and we want not just to have it driven by geeks and greens and health fanatics, as I used to be, but also relevant to what really drives social change, what matters to ordinary people, as I try to think of myself after Friday evening. So multidisciplinarity means you've got to have a lot of this. And me, I'm right at the end, I'm a historian, but it all matters. So I think that one of the things we need to do in all of our endeavors, and I say this to my colleagues in the room as well, is to force total multidisciplinarity. Too often today, we will all go out in the coffee bar and say, well, of course, we are multidisciplinary, that's what we do. But what it means is we tend to be a little bit more open to having some of our mates from other disciplines in our game. It does not mean we commit to being totally open. So yes, computer engineers and neurophysiologists, but we don't want psychology in. Just one example. We have to be multidisciplinary. That means you let the awkward people in as well, just as multi-stakeholder means you let the awkward people in as well. Now, just a few things on my mind. As I've said, how can we move from gadgets to tools? Do we have evidence that this game works? Am I just setting out an agenda for something that we would all like to do and use Euro taxpayers' money to fund, but in practice we're not sure whether it makes a difference? If we do think it makes a difference, how do we get critical mass, both in terms of availability of platforms and in multiplication of sectoral applications? Should I be doing it, or should you be doing it, or somebody else? And how do we guarantee quality? Trust, privacy, ethics, again, we put it at the end because it's always there, it's the most difficult. So those, I hope, are at least as slides enable you to start the day, including our colleagues behind us, with a clear idea of the chairman's prejudices, but that's not intended to close the parameters of the conversation. What will close the parameters of conversation is the timetable, and therefore I would now like to move straight into the morning session. The morning session finishes at 10:30, and I plead to those people behind me to let those people in front of me have a word before 10:30. And I know that Jeff Mulgan and those who will follow him are committed also to allowing you to have a voice at the end. So after each section, if there's something that is completely obscure and you just need to say, what do you mean by that? Put up your hand. Otherwise, at the end of all the presentations, we will hopefully have time to get the voices from the floor. So first off,